Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. It's the Thursday, January 8th, 2026 episode of The Marco Jure Show. Thank you for tuning in to today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you might get your podcast. Please give it a share. It's now available on all streaming apps as well. Let's start off the best hour of radio, uncensored and ready to go. No one else is going to go over what I'm going over today. I've got a lot to discuss, of course, as always with you. But I want to start things off with the elephant in the room right now. As by now most of you know, the protest happening in Minneapolis about the shooting yesterday of the female driver in what was to be, an ICE protest that she was partaking in, that she was allegedly leading. But it didn't take long, folks. It didn't take long for the powers that be, these people involved, of course, that organize these events, to come in and start getting hundreds, thousands of people in the streets yesterday evening, of course, protesting ICE. It's ICE's fault. The woman, of course, had no accountability. Now, to me, I watched several different footages of this video from different angles, of course. What most people are missing, and by the way, most people don't even care if it's justified or not. They simply hate ICE. They hate the Republican Party. They hate conservatives. They hate President Trump. They don't care about information. They don't care about facts or the truth. But I've got it for you because that's what I care about. I care about what's lawful and what's just. Nobody has a right to impede an ICE investigation. They don't have any right to impede law enforcement of any kind. Can you imagine if law enforcement was driving down the street and you have a car that's sitting right in the middle of the street to block where you are going? Obviously, that's unjust. That's unlawful. I mean, you can't do that. You can't do that. So what happened yesterday was negligent on the part of this driver, first and foremost. If she'd like to protest against ICE, I could give less than a damn. Go stand in front of City Hall, wave your little signs, wave your little banners, shout your little chants. I could care less. That's your right to do that. You don't have a right to impede a federal investigation or operations. You don't have a right to block the streets. So let's make that point clear. She had no right to be doing what she was doing yesterday. And wasn't it a bit odd that there's someone in the street recording every single thing that was leading up to that event? Why would somebody just randomly record that? Was somebody ready to say, hey, look at what we're doing? And again, they captured everything on tape. Here's the problem, though. When an officer gives you a lawful command, doesn't matter if you agree with it, if you like it, you think they're being racist or unjust or unlawful, you need to follow their command. So if an officer gets out of their vehicle and says, get out of the car, that does not mean you back up the vehicle, face it directly at another agent who's approaching the vehicle, and then hit the gas. That's just a recipe for disaster, and that's, of course, what we saw yesterday. A senseless act made, obviously, at the spur of the moment. And again, in the matter of just a few seconds, we saw how that escalated very, very quickly. I want to say one more thing about this, though, obviously. And when an officer's life is threatened in that way, in other words, when a vehicle is approaching them, you don't know what's going to happen. He doesn't know if she's trying to drive it directly into him. She's trying to just drive away. We don't know. No one is going to take the moments of time to sit there and go, geez, I wonder if she's going to hurt me with this vehicle. Which, again, is lethal force, by the way. A vehicle is lethal force. And obviously that could have killed him. Obviously, if he didn't push off the hood, he could have been dragged under the car. He could have been hit by the car. We don't know. But an officer is not going to take that chance. They're going to react in such a way. And they're going to respond with lethal force as well. It's not an outcome anyone wants, but there has to be accountability with people's actions. That's the problem behind all this. People don't think there's any culpability to their actions anymore. They think they can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. They can rob, steal, cheat, kill. Doesn't matter. They can just do whatever the hell they want because they're entitled to it for some reason. They've made up in their minds. This is the problem about society today. There are consequences to your bad actions. And this woman made several bad actions that day. She should have been doing that in the street. When a law enforcement officer tells you to do something, she defied it. She then backed up her vehicle to evade police and then put another officer's life in direct danger. To which he responded with lethal force. Now, some people are getting online saying, well, he was out of the way by the time she started driving. No, he wasn't, by the way. If he didn't push off that hood, again, I watched it several times to make sure. If he didn't push off that hood, he would have been hit by that car. And he moved to the side as she was driving past him. These actions have consequences, folks. And unfortunately, a woman lost her life because she was acting recklessly yesterday. But in any situation, if it was a female driver, if it was a male driver, if it was anyone of any race or ethnicity or creed or whatever it is, cops are going to respond in that way. They are not going to let you just simply murder them. Whether she intended to hit the driver or not, we don't know. But the officers don't have to wait there and decide if she's going to do that or not. When an officer gives you a lawful command, let me say it one more time. When an officer gives you a lawful command, you are to follow it. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. If they ask you for identification, registration, whatever they ask you for, any questions they ask you, you answer them. And if you feel like your rights have been violated, well, afterwards you can find, I'm sure, several lawyers that will take up your plight to go after that law enforcement officer. They give you their name, they give you their badge on the ticket or whatever it is they give you. And you can fight that the legal way if you feel your rights have been violated. What she did yesterday was reckless. It was inappropriate. Didn't have to happen that way. But she escalated into that situation. And it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing to see things like this. Always, always. What took place yesterday, though? I mean, we're seeing the left come out, of course, and they're backing this woman. They're calling her a legal observer. I'm looking at tweet after tweet or X-post after X-post, whatever you call them now. I don't know what you call these. Are these X-posts? I think so. Little Jerry Nadler, Sarah Jacobs of California, another useless. Look at here. We've got Ed Krashenstein, loser. Maxine Dexter, loser. Ill in the Head Omar, loser. All saying the exact same thing. This is a legal observer. A legal observer of what, by the way? A legal observer does not block traffic in any respect, do they? I mean, this is ridiculous. A legal observer was shot in the face and killed in a Minneapolis neighborhood. By the way, this woman was, I guess, just recently moved to the area. She hadn't even been there very long. And yet she's out there doing this in the middle of the day. Folks, when you wake up in the morning, do you wake up and say, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to stop ICE from doing their job. I'm going to get right out there. And this is how I'm going to spend my day. Being a nuisance to society. I mean, this is just stupidity. Who wakes up and does this, by the way? It's absurd to me to think that someone would wake up and want to do such a thing. But regardless, they hear the rhetoric. They're egged on now by the news media, of course, and the politicians alike that get up and make these posts. These people follow these posts. They listen to these posts. They hear the radicalization that's being spewed, that ICE is Trump's Gestapo, right? They have those placards they held up, of course, during this protest. And, of course, the banners that they wave all randomly showed up yesterday, too, by the way. All randomly in sync showed up yesterday with these well-produced signs. These predetermined chants that they always have, right? Nothing about this is organic, too, by the way. By the way, who the hell's going to go out yesterday in Minneapolis when it's about 30 degrees out? It's just so predictable. that a lot of this is obviously ushered in. A lot of this is obviously determined before it even happens, of course. And, of course, they take to the streets where they shouldn't even be. By the way, they were going out there attacking people in their own vehicles, private citizens, by the way. They had absolutely nothing to do with what ICE did yesterday. Waving foreign flags. That really gives us sympathy for your plight, doesn't it? And, of course, their response to people that are actually murdered, like Charlie Kirk. They want sympathy now? Yes, I do feel bad for this woman that this happened to her, but, I mean, this idea that you're this ardently opposed to the Trump administration, you're going to go in the streets like this? We're seeing the same thing in New York City taking place. Of course, it's a cesspool right now, as is. Obviously, there's different groups. Indivisible, of course, that channels all this. We have groups funded by the Chinese Communist Party that do the same exact thing. All this is a mass organization, folks. But one of the biggest scumbags of yesterday, I'd have to say, is this dunce mayor they have there, Jacob Frey. A complete useless, a complete dunce. He couldn't even control a city back during the 2020 riots, of course. Totally kowtowed to this mob, of course, and his city burned as a result of this. And now it doesn't seem like things are escalating to that position right now, but it certainly could lead to that. He was out with Jen Psaki, right? Another useless. I believe she's on MS Nobody Cares. And she asked him the following. Take a listen.
Some images of what appear to be large-scale peaceful protests tonight. In response, we have reporters on the ground who, of course, covering them. Tell us what the scale of those are. What are you hearing about what's happening on the ground? How did they originate?
Well, look, I won't speak to the work that those that have been organizing is doing right now. I won't speak to that. What I will say is there is a broad message that is going out, and that message is pretty clear, which is don't take the bait. We'll stand up for justice. We'll stand up for what is right. And we also recognize what the Trump administration is trying to do here, because it appears that they wanted a moment like this.
They wanted a moment like this. What moment would that be? Impeding ICE? Destroying your city? What you let happen 5 years ago? Well, almost 6 years ago now. Look at this clown. Gets up, says everything I saw was BS. They're lying to you. Folks, I watched the video. I watched it from 3 different angles. This woman drives directly at an officer. That is lethal force. Doesn't matter any way you try to spin it. Doesn't matter if she intended to hit him, didn't intend to hit him. She backs up her vehicle. The vehicle directly is facing this officer, approaching the vehicle, and she accelerates. And by the way, if her tire didn't get the loss of traction on the ground because of the ice, she would have gone even faster towards this officer. An officer is not going to let somebody kill them. I'm sorry. They're just not going to do that. And it would be ridiculous to think that that would be okay. Anyone with any sense would tell you this. But it's not good enough for Jacob Frey, and it's not good enough for the also equally stupid mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson.
Good evening, Chicago. I would like to take a moment to address the tragic loss of life today in Minneapolis. The video that many of us have seen of ICE officers fatally shooting a woman at point-blank range is deeply disturbing and, unfortunately, all too similar to incidents that have transpired here in Chicago. No community deserves to be subjected to the terror that's stemming from this president's use of ICE as his personal militarized force.
So there's the rhetoric right there. There's the rhetoric right there. This is a militarized force. They have no right to be there. They're here to oppress you. And we need to stand up to these people. Every single thing they've done leads to what we saw yesterday. This type of rhetoric, this type of behavior, this type of leadership, or I should say lack of leadership from our leaders in these communities. These rogue mayors, Jacob Frey, Brandon Johnson. Now we have Zoran Mamdummy out in New York City. Were you shocked there's protests happening? These are not organic, too, by the way, folks. Don't misunderstand anything that is happening right now. None of this is organic. Nobody sees this in the news and goes, you know what? I'm going to go right outside right now and protest this. What are you protesting? They don't even know because they're paid agitators. That's what they are. This precedent took place a long time ago, and obviously we shouldn't be shocked by this. Why would someone think this is okay to do? That's what the big question I had from this. We know this was justifiable. Again, I'm looking at the footage. That's what I've drawn from it. I'm sure maybe some of you would as well. But where do we get this precedence that people can go out in the streets and do this? They can just go out and attack people. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. It happened a couple of years ago, by the way. Let me explain it to you. This has all been justified in incidents in other states, just so we're all clear of this. And again, people see this because we all have social media today. We see these things. And everyone thinks because they're in a blue city, in a blue state, they can just simply do whatever they want. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All right. California, by the way, helped the Democrats normalize assaulting ICE, of course. And Johnson in his video, I'm sick of hearing his voice. I stopped him. But he goes on to say, he talks about how ICE is oppressing everybody, right? ICE is doing this, and they've done it over and over again, right? Okay. And he talks about how they're masked goons, of course, working with the Trump administration. And the reason they're masked is obviously to protect their own identity because people will dox them, people will try to attack them and their families at their homes, and they don't want that to happen to them. Just so we're all clear on this. This is why they're doing this. It's not because it's any type of fun. It's not to conceal identity. And by the way, they all have badges on anyways. So what the hell is he talking about? Notice how they don't say a damn thing about Antifa taking to the streets and creating this disunity. Never do they ever say anything about this. Never. Antifa could go out and do that. Totally fine. Wear the mask. If you want to wear a mask while you're looting a Louis Vuitton's, hey, all the power to you. No one says a damn thing on the left about this. But when it's ICE agents who are actually protecting their identity so they can perform their tasks, then it's a big deal. Then they're a goon squad. Then they're tyrants. It's ridiculous. But here we go. This is in the Front Page magazine. It talks about how an Obama judge in the once great state of California, before the Democrats ruined the state, allows and condones the assaults on ICE officers. Back in October 2025, a case appeared in front of a U.S. District Court. Judge Fernando Olguin took pity on a Carlos Parias, a well-known TikToker and illegal alien. What did he do? Well, he decided to ram his car into ICE agents' vehicles after they boxed him in. This future Nobel Peace Prize winner, Parias, again, they went in and arrested him. And the officers, seeing the use of deadly force take place, the car driving into their vehicle, of course, they opened fire. And one of them struck Parias in the arm. He was then arrested afterwards, and he was later charged by local prosecutors and indicted by a grand jury. So now fast forward, the criminal enabler, right, this Olguin, who really should be removed from his tenure as an activist judge, went on to write a scathing 28-page order dismissing this entire indictment because of prejudice. It's prejudice to arrest people that try to do this to you. And, of course, it's prejudice to enforce legal immigration laws that are signed by the President of the United States and, of course, laws that were enacted and passed by both chambers of Congress, right? It's unbelievable. So, in other words, now you cannot refile the same charges against federal officers of assault using a deadly or dangerous weapon. In this case, it would have been his car. What moron would crash their own car too, by the way? That's what I want to know. Why would you crash your own vehicle into ICE? An ICE vehicle. It's so preposterous. Except a complete schmuck like this guy. And he goes on to write, this judge. He says, and depredation of government property. So it's okay to slam your vehicle into government property. It's totally fine because it's prejudice against you. Because you are the victim. Because you came here illegally. I can't even take this anymore. It's preposterous. It's ridiculousness. This judge is not even interested in following the law or holding people accountable. This is one of his people. Just like Gavin Newsom says, the illegal aliens are his people. Again, no biggie. Attack ICE agents. Carry on, Mr. Pariahs. There you go. More like pariah. That's what he is. And of course, he obviously is there to continue to make Los Angeles a much better place with his sterling reputation of attacking ICE agents. You want to laugh? This jerk received a certificate of appreciation from a LA City Councilman, Curran Price Jr. Now, who is Curran Price Jr.? Well, he himself has been charged by the FBI in 2023 with 10 counts of corruption, 5 counts of embezzlement of government funds, 3 counts of perjury, and 2 counts of conflict of interest. I'd say hell of a resume, wouldn't you, folks? He still sits on the LA City Council, too, by the way. That's how corrupt LA is. And again, I say he's alleged because he hasn't been found guilty just yet. But the charges are there, of course. And by the way, one of the charges appeared to have legislation that he put forth give a multi-million-dollar government contract to local agencies, which, again, his wife received $800,000 from. Not too bad, right? So the rot runs deep, doesn't it, folks? And, of course, the swamp in California is just as dirty as it could even be in Washington, D.C. And, again, many other places. Look at New York City. Look at all these cesspools. Look at the people who run them and the judges that allow this to happen. This doesn't make L.A. safe or California safe. It doesn't make America safe. But yet every time something like this happens, they use it as an opportunity. Because never let a good crisis go to waste, right? That's what Rahm Emanuel said. Never let a good crisis go to waste. A woman in pursuit of some just cause for liberal ideology gets killed in the way. Take to the streets. Take to the streets. Create civil unrest. Don't remember anything about the Minneapolis fraud that took place, where $9 billion from the state taxpayer was ripped off. Don't worry about that. Don't worry that you have an illegal alien population. Don't worry about that. Don't worry that people are here that shouldn't be here. Don't worry about it at all. Just worry about the Gestapo. Worry about the Trump administration. Forget about it. And again, totally forget about Epstein files. Forget all about that. That's nice obfuscation right now, isn't it, folks? Don't worry about the economy right now or the state of it. Just go out in the streets right now, because that's more important right now. By the way, were any of these dunces in Minneapolis in the streets when Irina Zarutka was killed, when she was stabbed in the neck? A young 20-something-year-old girl from Ukraine, an immigrant? Did anyone take to the streets for that? Or for racial justice, right? Did anyone take to the streets for that on the left? No, they can give less than a damn. They don't give a damn. They only hit the streets when they're told to. You didn't hear a peep from any of these people. Or any of the pretenders of so-called justice. Well, they didn't give a damn. Laken Riley was killed by an illegal alien scumbag from Venezuela. Could care less. No outrage there. None. Rachel Morin, same thing. Raped and killed by an illegal alien. Body discarded like it was trash. Jocelyn Nungary in Texas, same thing. 2 illegal aliens raped and killed her. Not a word from any of these people. Not one word. So don't let the phony outrage, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. Don't let the schmucks tell you otherwise. Don't let them tell you otherwise. This was justified by the cop. Otherwise, we'd have a dead cop on our hands. Now, we know they wouldn't take to the streets for that, of course. By the way, Tim Walz says he now declares war on the federal government, too, in a moronic press speech. Not that anyone listens to him anymore, but this is where we are as a nation. Because of the people that are rogue, that run these states, that run these cities. They don't care about federal law. They don't care about separations of government, which they pretend to, when it's convenient to them, of course. But this precedent took place, obviously, long ago, and it's getting more and more people into trouble. because they think they walk on water, when they certainly don't. And by the way, isn't it the Democrats who say no one's above the law? Yeah, never trust the Democrat, folks, just so we're all clear on this. And again, I implore everybody to go and look at the video footage. There's plenty of it around, and you'll see for yourself everything I just said to you. All right, let's move on. I got an article here in Reuters. It says here that Trump calls for a $1.5 trillion military budget in 2026's fiscal year, up from the $901 billion in 2026. Did I say 2027? I meant in 20. No, the 1.5 trillion military budget was 2027, and it's up from the 901 billion in 2026. Excuse me if I said 2026 twice. All right. Look where we are right now. A $1.5 trillion military budget? I mean, what the hell are we doing with this now? We should be slashing some of this, of course. But instead, of course, we're adding to it. And again, any such increase in the military budget would obviously require congressional authorization, which could pose a challenge because although Trump has a slim majority in both the House and Senate, obviously not all are fond of the appetite for more government spending, more federal defense spending. And of course, the trend that this is going to continue up. Why are we doing this? Why are we going to spend almost just over $500 million more on federal spending? What's going on here? Now, Trump says, according to a Truth Social post, that after long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, especially in those very troubled and dangerous times. Again, I don't know what the cause to spend this much more is. Unless, of course, he needs more money to enforce our imperialism in places like Venezuela, in Cuba, in Colombia, Nicaragua, Greenland. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Do we need more money to go after some of these ships by keeping these blockades around Venezuela? Stationing troops in places like Puerto Rico? Are we going to put boots on the ground in Venezuela and all these other countries? How about Mexico? That's going to take a lot of effort, too. That's going to take a lot of money, a lot of resources. What are they planning for? What is the money needed for? Because that's a very big sum of money, folks. Especially in just 1 year's time to increase like that. But it says here Trump has also deployed U.S. troops to police a number of cities across the country. Are we planning for that, too? I don't even know. Who knows? Are things going to get out of hand in Minneapolis, in New York City, among other places? Yeah, a lot of things are escalating, folks, not just in the foreign affairs aspect, but also domestically, too. So the news follows a separate Truth Social post from President Trump blasting defense companies for producing weapons too slowly. In it, he pledged to block defense contractors from paying dividends or buying back shares until they accelerated production. We're not producing nearly as quick enough, certainly as other countries that spend far less than we do. Russia puts out, a great deal more than what we do in a fraction of the time. And again, that's why their arsenal is up to date and it's ready to go. They're ready to drop more bombs if they need to, if need be necessary. Doesn't matter to them. Doesn't matter to them at all. Now, Trump said the extra spending would be covered by revenues generated by tariffs. He's also imposed nearly every country that obviously we trade with, of course, and of course many industrial sectors as well. And he said that the United States would still be able to reduce its debt, which again I don't know how that's going to happen. We haven't done that yet. And again, send dividend checks to moderate income Americans. So let's think about this for a moment. Let's think about this. We have tariffs put on, obviously, imports that come in the country. We have different percentages, of course, based on whatever President Trump feels like doing for that particular day. I don't know. Here's the problem with all this. Tariffs increase prices on consumer goods. Let's just get that on the open. We've taken in billions of dollars. Yes, we have. Of course we have. We import a lot of things to this country. Here's the problem with everything, though. It all comes back to you, the consumer. Because a business can only eat up that extra cost for so long. before they say, okay, we've got to start adjusting prices now. And of course, it's very bad for small businesses because they can't compete with the big corporations that can obviously make some certain types of cuts. Lots of things go wrong with these tariffs. Obviously, I told you before, Congress is supposed to be set to issue and sign and approve of tariffs. That's not being done. Of course, then the president would enact it, should he want to. But we're circumventing Congress completely, and we're just going to the president. Obviously, that's not constitutional. That's why I'm against these tariffs right now. But anyways, we're using the tariffs as a guise, I guess, to say, okay, well, we can obviously take some of this money that we've collected, that we pass the price on to you, of course, and it will reduce the debt. It's not. The debt's going up, folks. We're not going to pay off anything of a sort with these tariffs. It just means higher prices for each and every one of us across many different products and avenues. So the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which, again, I don't know how this could even exist. We haven't had a responsible federal budget in God knows how long. It's a nonpartisan think tank estimated the proposal would cost $5 trillion through 2035, while adding a $5.8 trillion to the U.S. debt with interest. So, again, it says only the half of the cost could be covered by tariffs in place right now, noting that the Supreme Court could rule that a large set of tariffs were illegal. Well, obviously they should. Again, read your Constitution. Congress is supposed to set anything fiscally. It's not up to the president. The president simply just enforces it. So there's lots of issues here with what's going on here. And again, I really want to hear the reasoning for why we need to increase so much more defense spending. That's a big problem. I think we all can agree on this. He said the last time the U.S. Defense Department saw an increase higher than 50% was in 1951 during the Korean War, which even saw huge surges in military spending under former President Ronald Reagan in 1981 and 1982, amounting to 25 and 20% respectively. So what are we planning for here? We know that Ronald Reagan was going up against the Soviet Union. We understand that in the Cold War. And we simply outproduced them. And it cost us a lot of money. Again, I don't know what we're planning to spend this on. But we are seeing Lockheed Martin. Their stocks are going up 6.2%. General Dynamics up 4.4%. Yep. So all this money now, all this big talk about defense spending of these big defense contractors. Love it, first of all. They get more money. And are we producing anything that we could use to, I don't know, go up against Russia? Do we have any new technology we're implementing? We're talking about bolstering profits, of course, but what are we investing in? More of the same? Are we inventing new things? Is there something brand new that President Trump knows that we don't know? I really want to hear the reasoning for this massive increase, because that is a very, very big number. Something tells me we're not going to get that answer, though. But we'll get the budget. Because, again, I listen to people. I know people that obviously have worked in Congress. I mean, I don't know them personally, but I listen to them speak. And they say, rule number one, never vote down an increase in defense spending. You'll never get reelected. So, again, these congressmen and women, these senators, they go in and they vote for more spending. It's just the way it is. But I think people have had enough of this. We spent more than the next 10 countries in order next to us. We spend far more than any of them do. And for some reason, the world is simply not a safer place. Anyways. One good thing, though, President Trump is doing right now. I really like this. This is in Bloomberg. So that President Trump now withdraws United States from 31 bodies in the UN already in fiscal peril. So President Trump is looking to divest the U.S. government from 66 different international organizations that the White House has deemed that is no longer serving American interest. I like this. This is good. I don't like being bogged down in all this globalism, although I do believe in international law, of course. But right now they're eyeing 31 UN entities. They're also looking at 35 non-UN organizations that operate contrary to U.S. national interests, the security, economic prosperity, and, of course, the sovereignty, according to the White House. And, of course, Trump has now directed U.S. agencies to cease participating and funding the entities in a presidential memo. So what are we looking at here? What things are we looking at and saying, you know what, we're done with this? This doesn't benefit us. This doesn't help us. What does this really mean for us, too, by the way? Now, this doesn't mean we're leaving the UN. Don't think we're doing such a thing like that. We're not doing that. But we're divesting from some of these organizations from a global standpoint. And a withdrawal does not mean we're terminating various U.S. treaties. That doesn't mean that. Those are already signed. Doesn't even remove the U.S. from the UN Charter, unless, of course, we were to, again, leave the UN, which is not happening. And it doesn't invalidate obligations under international law, so including human rights treaties, arms control treaties, trade agreements, environmental treaties. Anything we've signed in ink, we're still a part of. But what he's talking about is we're getting out of these organizations that are not benefiting us. Why are we going into certain organizations, which we have no benefit, and we spend an ample amount of money on? Again, I love the fiscal conservatism of this, but why can't we do this across the board in our spending too? Why can't we cut government spending? Anytime we look at any point in American history, anytime government spending is cut, we see prosperity increase as a result of that. Look no further than in the early 1920s when Warren G. Harding took office. He came in 1921, and he saw that unemployment was at 6%. He didn't do anything. He didn't create a new program. He didn't create any new legislation. Nothing. You know what he did? He cut government spending. What was the end result? The next year, unemployment was cut in half. And then it was cut down in half the following year as a result as well. Harding, Coolidge, they understood fiscal conservatism. That's foreign to our leaders today. We just spend, and we print more money, and we sell our debt, which is another very big problem right now, especially with global tensions right now. If China dumps our debt, which I don't think they would do because that would be awful for them as well, we'd be in a lot of trouble, though. We'd be in a lot of trouble. So we've got to get the fiscal conservatism back on track as best we can, and I think that would be beneficial to everybody listening right now. But look at some of these organizations we're in. Right, look at this one. The UN Climate Treaty Framework. Why are we in this? What are we doing here? Population Fund, which looks at reproductive health and demographic programs. UN Women, Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. Why are we in this too? It's ridiculous. Everything in America is already geared towards female success, whether you want to believe me or not. Schools obviously push that way now. We see more women now in doctoral programs, law programs, anything across the board there. Everything is geared towards female success. You don't have to believe me, but it's the truth. Look at this. Various UN climate commissions. Again, all these things. What is the purpose of this? Why are we paying to be in this? What are we paying for, too, by the way? How is this benefiting us? That's what we need to ask ourselves. None of this makes any sense here. So again, I'm glad to see that we're getting out of these various UN organizations and again, the other organizations that are not a part of the UN, because again, it doesn't benefit the United States. We're already using ingenuity to work with the climate. We're doing things like that. And I think we have enough gender equity programs and nonsense in this country, don't you think? I think so too. And the whole Bill Gates of hell, this population of reproductive health agencies. What is this nonsense? What is the purpose of this? Eugenics? I don't even know what this could be. But it's sickening. It really is that we waste our time and money on this. Same thing with the Paris Climate Accord nonsense that we were involved in. The amount of money we put into NATO. What do we get from this? We should be getting out of NATO. NATO should be disbanding. We don't need NATO anymore. There's no Warsaw Pact anymore. Let's get out of these things. We're not in the Cold War anymore. Unless, of course, we're anticipating to be in one again, which I hope not. One other thing I want to talk to you about before we move on, though, And again, I like Trump's idea with this entire aspect. Let's talk about foreign aid for a second. When we're talking about spending, we're talking about being in these programs that are not fiscally sound for us or even responsible to be in. But look at this. Since 1946, when foreign aid became a thing after the Second World War, we spent some $3.7 to $4.2 trillion. As if to say, a lot of money, folks. Every single year, we give money. We give money. I mean, we give money to 170 different nations. Why? Why are we giving money to 170 different nations? Now, again, some get more than others, of course. Every single year, though, $3.8 billion to Israel's military. Why are we funding a foreign country's, a sovereign country? Why are we funding their military every single year? Netanyahu just came here at the end of the year in 2025, and now he's getting 25 F-15s. Why? Let them print their own money. Let them use their own ingenuity and their resources to build their own damn planes. Now we're talking about giving billions of dollars worth of weaponry to Taiwan. Now, in Taiwan's defense, at least they purchased some from us. We haven't given them anything yet, but at least they purchased it from us. But why do we want to put ourselves in these situations? That's the question I want to ask you. Why are we doing this to ourselves? We're spending billions and billions and billions every single year of money we don't have. Look at the amount of debt we're in. And yet, year after year, no problem. War in Iraq, spent over $1 trillion in that. Afghanistan, how much money we spent there? It's ridiculousness. It's absolutely ridiculousness. And by the way, the Council on Foreign Relations has reported that since 1946, the average amount of money, if we were to divide it evenly, would equate to $51.4 billion every single year. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, folks. And that number is only going to continue to go up. Look how much money we wasted in Ukraine. For being honest about the numbers that we put out there, with the interest too, by the way, that equaled over $300 billion in a span of less than 4 years. If that doesn't make you sick to your stomach, I don't know what will. I think U.S. states could have used that $300 billion or $350 billion, whatever projection it is. And it's certainly not the, I think, $150 billion they're estimating it to be now. It's double that, easily double that. Don't you think American states could have used that money to rebuild, invest in the communities, clean up the streets, invest in things like new power lines, new power grids, new ports, new roads, new bridges? Don't you think that could be more beneficial? Maybe more money for teachers, for God's sakes? Other jobs that we should value in this country? What about that? Well, education's a mess now, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, people go to school for teaching, and they make nothing now. But, Israel needs money, Ukraine needs money, this country needs money, that country needs money. They get it right away. Sickening to me. Absolutely sickening to me. All right, I want to move on now. Fox Business had a nice piece yesterday. Charles Payne had on Tracy... what's her name? Tracy Schuchart, an economist with the Ninja Trader Group. And they were talking about a Bloomberg opinion titled, Trump Has His Very Own Oil Empire. But folks, I want to ask you something. Is it all cheeseburgers in paradise with this right now? Is it all cheeseburgers in paradise? And that's the problem. I don't think it is. She thinks no as well, and rightfully so. Let's listen to what she says, and we'll break it down a little bit.
Well, yes and no, because we're talking about two entirely separate oils, right? You have light WTI, light oil, and then you have heavy crude oil. And yes, we are geared towards heavy crude oil, but really mostly Canadian heavy crude, which is very different from Venezuelan's heavy crude. In fact, Venezuela needs to import lighter crude oils to mix with their oil just to be able to export it so people buy their oil. So there's a whole lot of problems with the oil industry overall in Venezuela, and the actual type of oil that they do produce is different from, again, Canadian heavy crude oil.
All right, so while Venezuela has the largest petroleum deposits in the Orinoco oil belt, this oil that she's referring to right now is the heaviest crude oil in the world right now that we know of. It's dirty. It takes a lot of refining to process, of course, to get it ready to be on the market. A lot of it is because it's the gravity of it, the API, gravity is what it's called, is very, very low. That means it sinks below water. And it's even lower than Canadian crude oil out of Alberta, which is where we get ours through pipelines in various situations like that. Very high sulfur rate, and this high sulfuric acid in the oil, it corrupts pipes, it corrodes, the towers that it uses to obviously extract it from the ground, the heat exchange that takes place with all these processes, it increases the cost of maintenance to cultivate this product. And again, which means more expenses. Now, again, you could add that to the costly prices, to the maintenance and all that too. So this crude oil needs desulfurization units, which requires more hydrogen. It also requires more energy to be used to process. But what's more is that U.S. blends of oil, again, thanks to regulations, environmental mandates and what have you, regulations of that such, they require lower sulfur content in both gasoline and diesel, as one could imagine. Think about California. If you're familiar with California, they have to have different types of seasonal blends, right? Because we can't just have regular gasoline in California. We've got to protect the environment. Yeah. Anyways, and again, you'll love this one too, by the way. Because of the sulfur levels are so high in this, again, it takes more steps to process it at these refineries. And again, to upgrade it to meet the proper standards, it actually makes the oil afterwards, despite the entire process it takes, it means it's a cheaper type of oil on the market. So really not a sound marketing idea, I wouldn't say. There's also more contaminants in this oil. Think of things like nickel, of other things. So you're getting less return while you're producing and spending more time producing the same oil. But again, it's not going to be as economically sound as we're presenting it to be. We're all thinking, well, look, we've got this control now because we've taken out the head of state. And we're saying to ourselves, okay, well, we've got this 303 billion barrels of oil. Now we're going to make so much money on this. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. Something tells me that's not going to be the case. What is the cost of this going to be? Let's take a listen to what she has to say now.
That would not only, if we have oil prices at $50 or lower for any length of time, not just to spike it down, you have to remember this is about length of time, you're going to see production come off the market in the U.S. Forget about wanting to invest in Venezuela, which is going to cost billions and billions and billions of dollars because of their infrastructure problems that have been neglected for literally decades. You know, they went from producing 3.5 million barrels a day to now just 750 million barrels per day. So depressed oil prices are definitely not going to encourage production anywhere.
Okay, so she says the figure for the current infrastructure inside Venezuela, she says it's 750 million barrels. She meant to say 750,000 barrels. The estimate that I got in 2025 from them is that they produce somewhere between 934,000 barrels per day. So we'll give it an estimate that they're able to produce with the existing infrastructure, which billions will have to be invested in now, according to what she's saying. They want to kick this up now. They want to produce more than 750,000 barrels per day. We look at what Canada does with their crude oil. They're producing about 4 million barrels per day. So we see the contrast in the two. And of course, one is much more difficult to produce and refine than the other. The last problem with this new business venture that America seems to find itself in is not only the refining, but the actual transportation of this oil. Now we look at Canadian crude oil. It's transported largely by pipeline, which is a much more quicker, sound way to do it. It's easier, it's faster, And it costs less. So it's economically very smart and savvy. But now we've got to take oil that's taken out of the ground in Venezuela. It's now got to be tanker-based, right? It's got to go in one of these oil tankers. And then it goes to a port. It's then bottleneck at one of our ports, which means it sits there for much longer. And then it reaches, eventually, one of our only oil refineries. We only have a couple that can actually produce this heavy crude oil to upgrade it to its final stages. And they're only located in Texas, Louisiana, and there's also one in Mississippi, I'm told. Of course, owned by our friends at Chevron, Exxon, Phillips, Valero, Citgo, and Marathon. There we go. So some people are going to do well with this. Other people are not going to do well with this. But get this. It gets worse. Even if we start right away with this whole processing, refining, obviously the extraction of the oil, all the whole process, the whole scheme. I'm told we won't even begin to see a turn of a profit until after the Trump presidency ends. So everyone telling you that we'll have this cheap gas soon is really full of it, or they really have no clue what they're talking about on the topic. Now, of course, we can speak on being resourceful and what have you. Can we increase the amount of barrels per day? Can we find ways to refine there and find ways to create pipelines and what have you? Again, that would be a very difficult venture, having to go through all that land and territory. We're not very close to Venezuela, folks. It's not next door like Canada is. So I don't know if we can improve the process or speed up the process. I don't know. Maybe at some point that would be economically beneficial to us. But right now, it's just simply not going to be what we think it is. But that's why they tell you, that's why you listen to my show, right? Let's just be serious. That's why you listen to my show, because I'm going to tell you how it is. Again, we all want cheaper gas. We all want cheaper utility prices. But this is not a quick fix to a problem. Or the 9.2% increase in heating prices that are coming this winter to all of us. Nobody tells you that either but me. It doesn't help either that California refineries are closing and they're going somewhere else. Or they're simply just closing down completely and switching their headquarters. And just for context, by the way, we had 135 oil refineries operating in 2020 in the United States. Today, that number is 131. And the number is expected to decline this year as well. There's 2 more refineries set to close their doors this year. And that would be Phillips 66 in Southern California, right by where I used to live too, by the way. It's a very, very big refinery. They're going to close that down. Thanks to Gavin Newsom, of course. And there's also a refinery in Houston. They're also looking to close as well. That's going to have an effect on the market too. Now you have less refineries. Now you have more supply coming in. And folks, we know economics, right? We know economics. Same demand, less or more supply. Yep. But now you have more supply that's taking longer to process. That's the problem. We don't have the refineries to meet that same demand. So will it cost more? Especially if you're bringing in oil that costs you more. What's that going to do? We also have things like the EV push. That's not helping oil prices as well right now. So that's another thing we got to look at. And we're also looking now in Venezuela at gold assets. That's another thing we're looking at as far as resources and the rare earth processing that takes place as well. Are they going to start doing this in America? Despite it being a dirty job in many respects, are they going to look to do that here? We don't know. But we know that we're going to have access to gold deposits, silver deposits, diamond deposits now. If we take control of this country, that's what it's going to be. And of course, the rare earths inside Venezuela as well. So we could see maybe that increasing. So it'll be very interesting to see how it turns out. But again, it's not going to be this quick fix that everyone thinks it's going to be. I've already seen people saying, look at this. We're going to have all this oil. Prices are going to start to go down. It's going to be a long while, folks. So hold on to your hats. It's not going to happen overnight by any means. And we don't even know what's happening inside this country or what it's going to cost to be inside this country. So will the benefit of taking this oil be more costly for us, or will it be costly for us and beneficial for just a few select people like Paul Singer, like the heads of these oil companies that are already billionaires? Something tells me it's going to be good for the few and not for the many. All right, folks, I want to close off today. I had a couple more articles, but I'm not going to have time to finish this, unfortunately. But I do want to talk about this article in the Federalist. It says that the Trump administration's new nutrition guidelines aim to end corrupt profiteering on Americans' poor health. This one's interesting to me. It's very interesting to me because what they're doing now is they're trying to make changes to the food pyramid. When did I say this? I said this yesterday, didn't I? Either yesterday or the day before. And it seems like they caught on pretty quickly, didn't they, folks? Well, so they want to make changes now to the food pyramid, the nutrition, education, and government program methods for procurement and approval of foods that represent the most significant reset of federal nutrition policy in history. That's what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying. And I told you before, he's doing great things, folks. If anything we can look to for positivity, this is a step in the right direction. Taking control of our health. Taking control of eating and knowing how to eat good, clean foods. Now, he went on to say, for decades, Americans have grown sicker while healthcare costs have soared. That's obviously true for many different reasons, but of course, the amount of food we're eating. Again, food, folks, to us, should be like a medicine. It should nurture your body. It should make your body sick or overweight or any, other health ailments we could look at, right? So we've got to understand what we put in our bodies is super important. He goes on to say the reason is clear, though. The hard truth is that our government has been lying to us to protect corporate profit taking, telling us that foods like substances were beneficial to public health. Now, there's several different examples, and this is going back, by the way, over 100 years, too. It's not anything that was just happened overnight. But the federal policy promoting and subsidizing highly processed foods and, of course, refined carbohydrates turn a blind eye to the disastrous consequences, and today those lies stop. This guy, he's doing great things, folks. He really is. And he says his message is clear. Eat real food. So in other words, get away from the non-GMOs, get away from the ultra-processed foods, get away from the refined carbs, the added sugars, the food dyes, the aspartames, the fake sweeteners, the seed oils, and start eating real food. Preferably by farmers and ranchers that are producing real food. And it's probably going to be more beneficial to you if you do things like that. So stay away from the animals that are eating just, soybeans, corn, these grains that they're not supposed to be eating. Again, it makes the animal sick. Anything they're being injected with, the hormones they're injected with, or even, for example, they're also injected with these vaccines that we don't even know what's in them. So do you really want to drink milk from a cow that has any of these mRNA vaccines? Something tells me you don't want to do that. Something tells me that what's in that is going to get into you because it's going to go get stored in the muscle, it gets stored in the body. And it's, it has an effect on your health as well. So you have to know what you're putting in your body, folks. That's number one. Now, the federal dietary guidelines shape many federal programs as well. So we can think about the groceries edible under the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, right? SNAP. Talk about school food lunches, the food procured by government agencies, including the Pentagon, Veterans Affairs hospitals, and more. But they also want to have common purchases for the 42 million Americans on these SNAP programs. So again, we've got to get away from these, the foods, the added sugars. I told you this before. At the grocery store, 80% of the food products you see, there's hundreds of thousands of different things at a grocery store. 80% of them all have added sugar to them. Why do they have added sugar to them? Because in 1980, they had the stupid idea, or it would be the late 70s, really. But it was a stupid idea. They decided to start taking the fat out of foods. There was a big hype about heart disease, And they decided to go in and say, well, we're going to take the fat out. We've been told fat is bad for you. We're going to tell you to eat fat sparingly. And we're going to add sugar to it now. So they're dumping sugar. Isn't that nice? And we're going to take the fat out of milk, right? We're going to take that out. Skim milk, right? Better choice. Okay, so you think all these things are healthier for you. And then they push cheese on you. Right? They take the fat from the milk and they make more cheese. Put cheese on this, cheese on that, sprinkle cheese on your head. All these stupid things. But one of the things I saw the other day, too, that made me laugh, even in the early part of the 20th century, they began pushing cereal on you. cereal, right, folks? All refined carbs, added sugar to it. Junk. You shouldn't even be eating cereal, and certainly not eating cereal to start your day off. You should be eating protein and fats. That's what I tended to do. Eggs are a great choice. Eggs with pepper and real salt on them are, done in... I get raw butter. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I use raw organic butter on my food. It means it hasn't been, processed or tampered with. And it makes a great breakfast. You're eating real foods with real nutrients. And you're getting that protein to maintain that existing muscle mass in your body, right? After you've broken your fast. Add some bacon to it, turkey bacon, beef bacon, maybe some avocado toast, right? Have a sourdough bread with it. It makes a great breakfast. And of course, add water to it. Don't have, adding sugar to your coffee or anything like that. Anyway, folks, the reason I say this to you is this is a step in the right direction. This has a major impact on the health and, of course, the diets of Americans. And hopefully, it'll keep people out of the hospitals instead of in the hospitals. It'll get people off the prescription medications that they really shouldn't be on, which again is just masking the symptoms. It's not curing the problem. It all starts with the diet. I think when people start to see this trend and they start changing things more and more, they will see what's going on and they'll say, you know what? I don't need the sodas. I don't need the refined carbs. I don't need the food dyes. I don't need the fake this and that or the hot Cheetos with God knows what of them. The MSG that destroys and eats away at the brain. Not a good thing. Let me end this segment, though, with a funny clip. RFK Jr. posted this yesterday. I think you'll find it humorous. And they're making a little spoof off of South Park. Let's listen.
The pyramid doesn't work. We've already tried it.
It's upside down.
What?
Sir, the pyramid is upside down.
Turn the pyramid upside down. You can't be serious. That would put butter and fat at the top of the damn food pyramid! Get the president on the phone. Tell him to have some steak with his butter.
Tell the president to have some steak with his butter. You gotta love South Park. They're absolutely right. The proper fats, the real fats that you get from, again, organic, grass-fed, or, beef, chicken. That's what you should be putting in your diet, folks. That's what you should want. That's what is going to make you more healthy. Fats and good proteins. Complete proteins. Your body needs it. Your brain needs it too, by the way. Don't tell a vegan that, though, of course. Folks, thank you again for being here today. I appreciate you so much. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you learned something. Hope you'll share with others, too. Make sure you're staying prepped, okay? Make sure you're educating yourself on your diet. Make sure you start up the right foods, the pure waters, any ammo you need, money, gold, tools, supplements, fuel, anything to be self-sufficient. Make sure you're starting that off. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you back here tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show for more groundbreaking news. Have a good one. Until then, be good. Stay great. God bless.